I had to call off today because I got sick. I picked something up and I went to the doctor. It did some tests and they weren't able to find anything. So I'm not sure what I'm dealing with, but it's kicking my butt. I've slept most of the day and I feel the need to speak on motivation, and on days like this, how do you come across it? How is it you're able to find it to be able to pick yourself up and do what it is you need to do? Now, at the beginning of this year, I set on a journey to callous every single day. And the point of this was to prove to myself that you are capable of doing something that is progressively harder and harder every day that passes. So the end goal being reaching the end of the year, knowing that I had used every single day the year prior to improve myself physically, mentally, and spiritually. And today is one of those days where I find myself not being able to get out of bed. My thoughts are incredibly slow. I don't really know how to start anything today. And it comes from this bug that's in me, bringing me down. But it makes me think of this story that I read like 4 years ago. And the book was called Endurance. It pretty much covers this group of explorers back in the early 1900s. And they had this captain named Ernest Shackleton. And Shackleton was this type of individual that didn't let his circumstance get the best of him. And what I mean by that is he was an explorer. He was someone who traveled into these unknown areas and did his best to understand them. And in this book, it covers his expedition to the Arctic and him trying to map out what hadn't been mapped out during their period of time. What stands out to me is on this expedition, there were 27 men. And those 27 men decided, okay, we're going to join Shackleton on this trip to the Arctic, to places that have never been explored, to try and understand the unknown. And they set out to do it, only to have their ship, the Endurance, crash and get stuck inside the Arctic snow. And these men were able to survive. Now, how they were able to do this was obviously through wit and perseverance. Whatever it was they could get their hands on is what they used to fuel themselves. And the way the book describes the dying of the ship, it's almost like this spirit that the ship carries, and you get the thoughts of the people that were on board through journals that were recovered during the expedition. And it's amazing to know. Oh, look. Got a little buddy. How are you, baby? It's amazing to know that through seeing your only vessel of transportation to get back to your regular life, your chance of survival sort of depleting next to nothing. These men were never, and that had to do primarily with how their captain, Shackleton, perceived every situation. He was a hard man. He never let circumstance control him. Every time the situation seemed to get more and more dire, he stepped up to the plate. He understood there was a mission to complete, and for him as a captain, it was to bring these men back to their families, to their original lives, to shore safely. And the way he managed to motivate them is what kept them alive, not just going, but alive. To do that for 27 people, including yourself, is not an easy task. And every time I find myself in a headspace where I can't seem to pick up a task or to see it through, I think of that story. For me, that story works. It's a story of resilience, of not letting the elements control you. You as a human being are able to overcome tasks that seem impossible as long as you put your mind into completing it, into seeing it through. Even on days where you feel sick, it's easy to say no. I'm gonna put it off until tomorrow. When you want to discipline and callous your mind, doing what it is you don't enjoy is one of the best methods of being able to train yourself to do what it is you need to do. And on days where you're unmotivated and you find yourself not wanting to do anything, not that you can't, you don't want to do anything. I reference stories like this, where these people were in a life and death situation, and each decision they made was essentially a path they chose to either keep going or not. You can go through your life pushing everything back until tomorrow, but tomorrow might not be there. So if there's an opportunity to do something in that moment, take it, do it. If you know you have the time to get it done, then use your time and get that task done. Something that is good for you in the short term, just a small task. If you continue to pile them up over a long period of time, you'll have incredible results. Compound interest is real. If you do one positive thing every day, 30 days later, you will see some sort of result. 6 months later, you will see a definitive result. 1 year later, it could be life-changing. So if you have the ability to get something done now, do it.